Alrighty, welcome back everyone. We just talked about Deion Sanders and some of the comments he's had over the past couple of weeks, and I'm sure he will have much more to come over the off season that we will definitely get to as they come. But right now, let's talk about recruiting. There has been a ton happening in the class of 2025 lately. This weekend, for whatever reason, everything blew up. There were tons of commitments. There were tons of guys deciding where they were going to play or flipping where they were going to play. So let's jump right in and let's actually jump in with the 2020, the class of 2026. Obviously, quite a ways away, but this guy is worth talking about this early. The top quarterback in the class of 2026, Jared Curtis, has committed to UGA. He had been leaning UGA's way for quite some time, it felt like, but finally pulled the trigger and has committed to the Dogs. Just an absolutely remarkable player. Someone that has elite arm talent, can do a ton of really good things, is kind of that Carson Beck mold in terms of being kind of that more pocket passer that still has a little bit of athletic ability to him. So definitely someone that Mike Bobo loved and was very keen on getting on the roster as quickly as possible. So I think Jared Curtis is obviously a huge pickup. We've seen a ton of guys decide to reclassify into a new class, so maybe that's something that happens here. I'm not necessarily betting on that, but at the end of the day, with these top quarterbacks, anything could happen. But as of right now, he is committed to UGA, a long way away, and tons of teams will be after him, but he's a dog for the time being. But now let's get to the 2025 class, because that's a little bit easier to wrap our head around than a kid going into his junior year of high school. But right now, there are tons of really, really talented kids in 2025, and a lot of them are on the defensive side of the ball. Tons of D linemen that are just remarkable, and USC really cleaned up this weekend on that front, and really just overall on the defense. And it started with Justice Terry, a five-star D lineman from Manchester, Georgia. He flipped his commitment from UGA to USC, so UGA was a big player in this weekend as well in the recruiting world. This time they were on the wrong side of things, and this is not the first time that this happened to UGA. A UGA player right now, Michael Williams, in 2021 flipped to USC around this time, I think around March of 2021, and then flipped back to UGA. So obviously some UGA fans have been pointing to that as a reason why Justice Terry will find his way back to Athens. But right now, USC is sitting really pretty with this guy, and he's an absolute game changer. He's someone that is physically just so imposing, and that's the guys Lincoln Riley needs. If he's going to pull off this remarkable culture change that he is talking about, it starts with personnel, and it starts with big old guys on the offensive and defensive line, and Justice Terry would be a huge guy to get on that team. So they're going to be fending off UGA and other teams until signing day, but as of right now, it's a absolutely huge addition for the Trojans, and shows a little bit of what Lincoln Riley is doing on the recruiting show going forward. They also got another D-line recruit in a four-star edge rusher, Isaiah Gibson. He's also from Georgia, from Warner Robins, Georgia. So D'Anton Lynn is making a very, very conscious effort to get the Georgia to LA pipeline because Georgia has been going into California and stealing tons of recruits over the last couple of years, and it's been a huge reason why USC has really struggled and has had a really tough time holding on to that state because schools like Georgia and Alabama jump in and steal all the good kids. So being able to come back and kind of give them a taste of their own medicine is absolutely huge. And then finally, they got a big-time commitment from safety Hilton Stubbs, a four-star from Jacksonville, Florida. It looked like Florida was leading in this one until yesterday, and Hilton Stubbs decides to go to USC, and this is obviously huge. USC has been a rather soft team since Lincoln Riley has gotten there, not necessarily the personnel that he's going to need to figure out this, culture change that he really wants, and those three guys are huge pickups. If he can hold on to all three of those guys, then he has got a really, really good start on this massive overhaul that he's trying to pull off. And I think that at the very least, he's putting his money where his mouth is right now with the culture change. Obviously, all of this will be decided on the field, but at the end of the day, recruiting is where all of this starts, and it'll be really interesting to see if he can keep this going and if he can continue this dominance that he's started to set up on the recruiting trail. Excuse me, I apologize. But some other big time recruitment or commitments throughout the weekend or this last week. Byron Washington, a 3-star offensive lineman from DeSoto, Texas, committed to Syracuse, and I really just want to talk about this kid because he is 6'7.5", 380 pounds. 6'7.5", 380 pounds. Like, he is a brick house. Like, he is insane. It's boggling to me that someone can be that size and still play on a football field, be as athletic as this kid is, and obviously a huge time pickup for Fran Brown and company because they're going to need huge offensive linemen, and they don't get much bigger than Byron Washington, so a big pickup for Syracuse there. Gerard Pringle Jr., the 4-star running back from Sefner, Florida, committed to Miami this weekend. Obviously, Miami has done a great job recruiting running backs since Mario Cristobal has taken over. Mark Fletcher Jr. is incredible, one of the guys that I'm very excited to see at the running back position this upcoming year. But this kid is a little bit different. He can absolutely go. He has a 10.56 100-meter dash, which is just elite speed, just a touch below what we call track speed because track speed is different. But this kid is insane. He's obviously remarkably fast, can do a number of things in the pass game, I'm sure. So very excited to see what he can do at Miami. And then Bama continued their age-old tradition of locking down big-time linebackers by getting Daryl Duke Johnson from Dodge County High School in Eastman, Georgia, and then Abdul Sanders Jr. from Mater D High School. And if Mater D sounds familiar, there are tons of names from there. Bryce Young, Matt Leinart, Amon-Ra St. Brown, just a couple of the NFL talents that have come out of there. So a very talented school, obviously a huge pickup for the Crimson Tide. And then let's get to what's kind of the main event of this time of year. Obviously, there's tons of recruiting for every position going on right now, but a little bit more attention placed on quarterbacks in this time of year. The Elite 11 regionals have begun. Elite 11 is a quarterback camp that goes around the country, and they pick 20 guys to come compete in the national Elite 11 camp. Then 12 move on to the Elite 11 finals throughout that week. So they've started the process of narrowing that down to 12 from 400 or 500 kids that come out and compete in these regionals. The finals are in Beaverton, Oregon at the Nike headquarters, so obviously a very cool trip for these kids. Guys like Drew Brees, Andrew Luck, Carson Palmer, Big Ben, Aaron Rodgers, Matthew Stafford, many more have come through Elite 11 camps. More recently, Bryce Young, CJ Stroud, Quinn Ewers, Caleb Williams, all of those guys were in the Elite 11 finals. Trent Dilfer runs the camp with some assistant coaches as well as some former players that come and play. A lot of big-time college quarterbacks will come back and coach. So maybe you guys like Quinn Ewers, Dylan Gabriel will come back and coach the guys this year. But usually happens in June, so definitely looking forward to that. But the invitations have started to go out because their regional regional tour, as they call it, has started, and they've given out 4 different invitations to the Elite 11 finals. And they gave out one in LA last week to Hussein Longstreet, 4-star from Corona, California. Uncommitted right now. It looks like A&M is kind of the leader in the clubhouse, but obviously a lot can change very quickly. But he has a chance to prove himself on a big-time stage. And then in Austin, they had 3 invitations. Tons of guys that were super talented came through that camp. So 3 guys got invited to the finals. Let's start with KJ Lacey, the 4-star from Saraland, Alabama. He is committed to Texas currently, but Bama is definitely a team to watch. His teammate, Ryan Williams, the wide receiver, has just gone to Bama and will definitely be pulling him in that direction. Keelan Russell, another guy, 4-star from Duncanville, Texas, another remarkable program out in Texas, currently committed to SMU, but Florida is definitely pushing for this kid. He is someone that is rising very quickly, so there will be a ton of teams to fend off for SMU in this one. And then Kevin Sperry, the four-star from Midwest City, Oklahoma, he is committed to Oklahoma, so he might just be the successor for Jackson Arnold, who was an Elite 11 winner in 2022. But the tour continues in 2 weeks in Oxford, Mississippi. Then they'll bounce around a lot of places like Orlando, Atlanta, Las Vegas, before it all culminating in Beaverton, Oregon for the finals in June. So I will keep you updated with all of the new invitees, with all of the different happenings around the Elite 11 camp, because it's always a really, really fun time of year, and you learn a lot about the big-time players in this group. So very excited to see what these guys can do. Some great players already in the finals in KJ Lacey, Husan Longstreet, a ton of incredible guys. So very excited to see what happens there. But we're going to take our final break of the show, and when we come back, we have a Good Vibes Monday for you. And we're going to talk about some quarterbacks that are finally getting their shot to shine. Maybe some guys that have sat for a number of years, had to transfer, or are in the spot that they've been in since they started, and finally get the chance to get under center and take the reins. So stick with us, and we will be right back with that.